Thank you. It is an incredible honor to be here in front of and alongside so many incredibly inspiring Swatis doing amazing and incredible things all over the world. When I was thinking about what I would say for my TED Talk, instantly a quote came to mind as a reminder of the unique and powerful capacities of every human. I briefly turn here to the most reputable source of ancient wisdom, Disney. In Mulan, the old emperor tells his general, a single grain of rice can tip the scale, to which most successful entrepreneurs, heroes, and leaders of the world would answer word. However, most of all, it is worth noting that those who have most successfully tipped the scale did not set out to do so or had the vision for it. As history shows, taking a proactive approach on a personal level most certainly leads to great benefits for society, for mankind at large. In fact, it is often the only thing that makes the impact. Most of us almost always go through the necessary cycle of complaining, outrage, suffering, and action. Often, this is a most unfortunate succession, and I believe action, the last step, needs to outpace the others in our consideration of available options for societal problems. In other words, what makes a good society is the willingness of its members to take a proactive approach to problems, to address issues they find unsatisfactory in their society, starting from the individual micro level to the global macro level. Most people are proactive in their local communities without really being aware of it or of their role and influence. My own entrepreneurial activity certainly didn't start with a massive plan to reshape society, although my 6-year-old self would probably disagree. My first action project was to create a socially responsible arts and crafts business called Best Out of Waste. I started with first proceeding to get the raw materials through stealth and sneakiness, all for a good cause, of course. On the first day of my business, I emptied all the matches from the matchbox used in my family temple to create a mini chest of drawers. The grand vision was to go from one chest of drawers to two to four, and so on and so forth, and my business would keep growing exponentially. After spending about 3 days stealing the matchboxes, replaced by my very confused grandmother, my family realized what I was doing when I tried selling my matchbox-made chest of drawers to my own grandmother. A poor business decision, as I now realize. My business, not thriving yet, but most certainly on that road to success, was shut down by my own family. That was my first attempt at social entrepreneurship, and even though it was shut down, it still set the stage for all my future projects, culminating into an educational reform and youth engagement organization called Independent Thought and Social Action in India. While my childhood adventures sparked the entrepreneurial spirit that would support my later endeavors, it was the American chapter of my life that gave me the educational perspective that would eventually motivate my social work. It was on January 21st, 2007, as a ninth grader, when my mother, my sister, and I moved to New York City after having spent our entire lives in India, Ahmedabad, a city in India. We left our world behind and all that was familiar to build not a matchbox chest of drawers this time, but to rebuild a life for greater educational opportunity and a place that would help us pursue our dreams. I started at Bard High School Early College in New York City. To make ends meet, my mother started working over 70 hours at a grocery store where she was paid even less than minimum wage. My sister, 7 at the time, helped me cook and clean as I stepped into the role of substitute mom for her while balancing a challenging high school and extracurricular activities. This challenge in New York, while helping me discover my own strength, more importantly, provided the foundation for the discovery of my own path of social involvement. It was through my experience at Bard that I discovered my passion for educational reform and youth empowerment. The Indian education system, very similar to the Ghana education system, as we already heard with Patrick Awua's talk, is an authoritarian system created during the Industrial Revolution to produce technicians, not thinkers. To give you a picture of many of the schools within this system, imagine this. A teacher marches into a sweltering classroom of an Indian public school, whose motto reads discipline, obedience, learning, all in the same sentence. And a densely packed classroom full of children rises dutifully. Students are taught in a system where the teacher has complete epistemological authority, ready to be lectured for the next hour. Questions are silenced, and curiosity is stamped out over the years in this authoritarian system as students follow the traditional system of rote memorization. The lack of power within students breeds passivity, creating severely disengaged citizens. As a product of a similar system myself, during the first few class discussions at Bard, I caught myself wondering, what is the right answer to the open-ended question that my teacher is posing? But then I realized that this type of right-wrong, black-white thinking was the limiting effect of the education system I had been raised in. Social problems were not black and white with perfect solutions, as I had once believed, but were in fact shades of gray, where numerous minds and multiple solutions are necessary to confront social issues. This realization liberated me from the constraint that the Indian education system had placed upon me for all those years. I wanted my peers in India to have the same opportunity of intellectual discovery and empowerment. While my experience in New York gave me the vision, it was Swarthmore that gave me the means to achieve this. This is when independent thought and social action in India was born. ITSA India sparks the flame of critical thinking and entrepreneurial spirit within youth leaders by helping them convert their ideas into action. ITSA counters the passivity that the Indian education system breeds within students. Oh, whoops. We run workshops for students, who we call ITSApreneurs, by the way, based on analyzing social issues critically using experiential and culturally relevant methods. ITSA aims at impact that carries beyond the classroom. This impact is illustrated by one such activity, the boat exercise. This activity is meant to change the approach and understanding of students of stereotypes. The story in the exercise goes like this. The year was 2012, and the world was ending. Students needed to save 10 imaginative characters out of 15, because only 10 would fit on the one boat they had. A heated discussion followed. "We can't kill the 300-pound man. He is most certainly a wrestler," exclaimed a student. "But we could fit 2 people onto this boat instead of the one 300-pound man," said another. "I would like to go back to the smoker," said a third student. "What if the smoker is my favorite actor, Shah Rukh Khan?" Who is, by the way, the Brad Pitt of India. They argued on and on for over 40 minutes. We heard emotionally invested voices, laughter, argument, as students made decisions on who they would choose to be the lucky ones to live. Our student, Akanksha's mom, later told us how she, Akanksha, and her dad had argued throughout the ride back home and at dinner as well on which people they should save. "You brought debate to our dinner table," she laughed the next time she saw us. Right in front of our eyes, we could see years of mechanically ossified beliefs be debated and limitations attacked. The transformation happened in front of our eyes, and very visibly so. Another such example is that of Rajvi. On the first day in a workshop where students were exploring identity, Rajvi described herself as disciplined and polite, like many of her peers in the class. All qualities were those of a star student in the Indian education system, non-disruptive, silent, and obedient. After being part of the workshops, by the second week, she was describing herself as creative and passionate. Initially, we had seen Rajvi work by herself, somewhat shyly so. However, in the third week, not only was she participating, but she in fact volunteered to present her group's decision on the boat exercise. That's Rajvi. Who would have imagined the shy rule follower would be the one to step outside the box and challenge those rules. She strode confidently in front of the class with another group member, smiled, and exclaimed, "We believe that we have found a solution that will save all 15 people. The solution is using genetic engineering." When I met her last winter break, during a reunion for the Itzapreneurs from last summer, she gushed to me, "It's like for the first time, I feel like I can say what I think and people will actually listen to me." My dad says that the self-confidence bug has bitten me and that I seem so much more excited and enthusiastic. This is Ria. Ria, through ITSA's connections with the city of Ahmedabad, is now working on a waste segregation project in a slum. Her model of waste segregation is raising money that the slum is using for various other activities, especially education of children. Her method of waste disposal has decreased disease and increased hygiene within the community. Her ITSA project has inspired another slum in the neighborhood to also jump on board and use her project's model. She runs workshops on hygiene for students in the slum. That's her with a group of her students that she works with. Shaina, another Itzapreneur, is pursuing her passion for singing and is now recording a song with a friend that people can request to dedicate to someone. Something like a serenade-gram, if any of you have been ambushed by ninja-grams before. They're raising money for girls from an orphanage to pursue education by recording worldwide listeners' personalized song requests. In my favorite song, they sing, "Live like there's no tomorrow, because all we have is here right now." Starting as a summer project, ITSA is now a registered NGO in India. This summer, which will be our third summer in India, we will be taking 12 interns with us from 5 different colleges in the US to work with ITSA and teach workshops. ITSA has brought together youth to support each other in their obstacles, explore underlying dilemmas on their various social issues. In a system that usually pits students against one another, it's interesting to note that these students are actually helping each other in their projects. When a student excitedly reports on progress they make with a project, or the spark that returns to their eyes when they find a solution to an obstacle they've been facing with their issue, that's when I know how much impact one can make. They help each other steal matchboxes, devise a system for matchbox stealing, and then finally find ways to produce those matchboxes. My mother, the strongest woman who I have ever known, has always ingrained in me this philosophy, that you can do exactly what you set your mind to. The only thing that stops you from achieving your goals and changing the world are your own fears. Akanksha, Rajvi, Shaina, and Ria are faces in a perpetually growing gallery of changemakers who I'm immensely proud of. They're also exponents of society at large. What started as a locally based project answering a local or at most a national need is now growing into a global force that addresses the problem of education that India shares with so many other places all over the world. This is how entrepreneurship and taking initiative changes the world. Step by step, departing from the entrepreneur's immediate proximity, and it all starts with the willingness to take the first step, to get one's hands dirty, as my co-founder Dwalan Patel likes to say. I believe a good society is achieved through the proactive involvement of its members, and the change and improvement we desire and seek begins at the individual level. My story, that of ITSA, is only one in the millions that contribute to a societal force that we often insufficiently emphasize and uphold as a resource. So today, I call upon you to take a proactive step in your society, to support and launch entrepreneurial ventures and projects, because each one of us and each one of those projects can be that grain of rice that tips the scale. Thank you.